if a tenant pays to you, once a tenant pays to you and you collect rent and you move and the tenant moves into that property, it becomes your tenant. And if you have to evict that person, you have to go to court.
Wow.
Okay, we'll talk about the...
Regardless of there's tenancy agreement or not, once there's an exchange of money,
provable exchange.
So even if you find somebody on your property, perhaps Marian lives in the property but decided to pass it to Stretch.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to sublet. That is one of the covenants in most agreements. You're not supposed to sublet. But in a case you now do it, your landlord now
collects
money from Stretch. You can't come round again to say...
you're not the person I gave the house to.
No, it automatically becomes...
It has moved.
Yes.
But how do we deal with that? Because I gave Stretch my house in trust. I'm certain, because we have a tenancy agreement, I don't necessarily have to check up on Stretch to be sure what he's doing with my house.
I didn't get that.
I'm going to your question, the last thing that you said. You're saying that if I sublet, whether I like it or not, that tenant is still my tenant. Are
you the landlord now?
Yes, I'm the landlord.
Okay,
so I'm saying, where does that leave me? Because we have a tenancy agreement, but the agreement is between Stretch and I, not with the person he subletted to. So I don't have to check up on Stretch every day to know who's living there. But then I now realize that somebody else is living there. Okay. Does that not shortchange me? And where's my own right?
Now I get it. Automatic is a covenant. In most agreement is a covenant that you should not sublet a property. The moment Stretch sublets your property, you are entitled by law to go to court for recovery of that premises. And you don't need to serve him a quit notice. You only need to serve him a 7-day owner's intention to recover. You only need to issue 7 days because he has breached a very, very fundamental part of that. So you don't need a quit notice. And I was going to come to the issue of quit notice.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Yes, you as a tenant, you're entitled to a valid quit notice.
Okay.
But it is subject to what you sign. Some people are always saying, oh, my landlord didn't give me 6 months. He has to give me 6 months. No, he doesn't have to give you 6 months. If you sign in your tenancy agreement that he can evict you after serving you 1 month or no service at all, no quit notice at all.
That's what you are bound.
What is important is that 7-day notice. That is called the notice of owner's intention to recover premises.
Okay.
To possession. So that is very important. But that quit notice is based on what you sign. But if you now have a tenancy agreement that does not make provision
for the quit notice part,
you now have to revert to the statutory provision. And what that says is, if you're a yearly tenant, and how do you determine what kind of tenancy?
You pay your rent.
What time of the year you pay your rent? So if you pay a yearly rent, then you're a yearly tenant.
Okay.
So then you are entitled to 6 months.
Oh.
That is if your tenancy agreement is silent on the issue of notice. If you are a half-yearly tenant, that is if you pay every 6 months, you're entitled to 3 months notice. If you pay quarterly, you're entitled to 3 months. If you pay monthly, then you're entitled to a month notice.
This is why it's important to read or make sure that you have that tenancy agreement.
Okay, so before you go on, there's a message here that will probably lead us to somewhere. Good morning to you all in the studio. I moved into an apartment last year, and up till now, my landlord didn't give me any receipt for payment for rent or agreement. He didn't even give me any agreement letter for which he collected money. Is this not a form of fraud? But you are living there, Ibn Praise.
Yeah.
Well, I won't say it's fraud, but it's illegal.
Okay.
What the landlord is doing is illegal because it's a right, and it's legal to do it. It's under the tenancy law of 2011. It's a provision that you must issue receipts. And you must tenancy agreement. If you like, have it orally. If you like, have it in document. But I think it should be documented. And it should have been insisting for that before he moved into the property.
Okay.
You as a tenant must. It is your right. I said your right. Your obligation to pay your rent as at when due. Now, if you do not pay your rent in 3 months in succession of 3 months, your landlord is entitled to go to court. Just issue you 7 days notice.
If you don't pay, if you
your
default.
rent, if you default in your rent payment, you don't have to give you 6 months quick notice.
Let me try to paint a scenario. I'm supposed to pay every March, and this year instead of March, I pay June. I say sorry, give me 3 months. Sorry, sir. Sorry.
If he condones that,
yeah, he gets me. I pay 3 months after March when I'm supposed to pay. I do that consistently. Does that give him the leeway to send me out with this?
How do you mean consistently?
Like every year. This year I am late by 3 months. Next year I am late by 2 months. But I pay.
But in 3 months succession, if he can elect to take you to court without issuing you 6 months notice. Okay. You know, every tenant, they're always coming to me to say, hey, my tenant, my
6 months.
No, it depends on what you did. Then if you do not use the property for the intended purpose, your landlord can go to court and just issue you 7 days notice and is in court to evict you. By the following week, you're in court for eviction.
Wow.
So if, for instance, that property is basically residential, you let it because of residential purposes, and you now convert it into a church. As a landlord, I can evict you.
Holy Ghost.
I'll be going to court. I'll just give you a week notice, and I'll be going to court to evict you. And the issue of quit notice will not be an issue because it's, in most agreements, is very fundamental. It's a covenant. So if you look at your agreement, when you say covenant, those ones are, if you
sacrosanct.
breach, yes, they are sacrosanct. If you breach it, it entitles your landlord to determine
whether you stay or go.
No, that language, determine means end your relationship.
So terminate it. Hey.
Yes, immediately.
Wow.